Borscht is a traditional Eastern European beet soup that's served either hot or cold.
But it's actually much more tasty than you might think. It's here to show us how to make it. It's personal chef Bill Collins from chefbill.com. We're celebrating the Sochi Games.
Yes.
Why not bring a taste of Russia to our palates here? We're making borscht.
Absolutely, and the great thing about borscht, a lot of people think it is Russian, but it's originally Ukrainian, but all over Eastern Europe, especially Poland. It's such a big, big deal. And what it has in common, excuse me, with so many of them is the beets, and they all go different from there. So it's just a great, great fun dish to make.
So the common denominator is the beets, but the best part I think about this dish is just this bright red.
Yes.
You can't beat the color of this dish. So how do we get started making it?
The way you get started with making it is start out with some beef. And you can go with ground beef, or you can go with some cube beef. And I took some stew beef here, and just trying to burn my fingers on the handles there. Ouch. And now, just
But you have chef's fingers, don't you?
I do. But try not to hold on too long.
And you signed a release, so you're.
You know, that's true. Yeah. So you're
here until noon.
Yeah. Then yep. But what you want to do is get it nice and hot.
And
in oil.
Beef. We've had you on the past with some stew beef. It's nice because it's really inexpensive.
It is, because this is great price performance. You can go with stew beef, you can go with ground beef. And the thing about stew beef is it gives you so much more flavor, because we're going to brown it and then just simmer it in the stock for about half an hour to really give it a chance to get the flavors going. And then from there, add in the beets and the other root vegetables. Because really, this is a root vegetable kind of dish. And that's what makes it so great. You look at beets, carrots, onions, potatoes, all the roots.
And I think that's why it works in Russia, but here, especially this time of year, because it's root vegetable season. If we're going shopping at our local farmers markets, these are the things that we're going to find there: beets and carrots and onions.
The winter markets have them all, and
yep.
Absolutely. And you happen to have a beet.
A beet. Not going to lie, Chef Bill, they intimidate me a bit. How do I take this and make a soup out of it?
Well, it's funny. It's actually easier than you think. I can see why it's intimidating, because it's solid as a rock.
Yeah.
And what do you do with it? So the first thing you want to do is to cut off the ends. Now, often when you get them right at the beginning of the season, they'll still have the greens, all the leaves attached. You can throw those right in, and they can be a part of the borscht as well. So I'm just going to give this a stir around.
And now, do we peel this like an apple?
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can give it a whirl.
Oh, it peels easily.
It really does.
Also peels my fingertips quite easily.
Can you eat raw beet?
You can.
I mean, I'm sure you can. It wouldn't hurt you.
It's best. I mean, you can put it like in a lot of health drinks, and really have to puree it up, because I like to joke that you could chip a tooth on it. Not that you literally could, but it's solider. I just made up that word.
I love that word.
It's solider than a potato, so it really is a rock-solid root vegetable.
You're speaking my language, making up words. That's the way Mountie Brain works, Chef Bill.
Well, that's exactly it. Yep. I've got a whole vocabulary of words that nobody else has.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. All right,
Almost
so Steph's
done.
doing a good job.
Almost done. So now,
You don't know this. The tip is tricky.
it is.
Runaway beet.
And maybe this is a rubber glove kind of food, because I'm looking.
Because actually, I often do
these
a
fingers.
rubber glove, but I think it'd be fun to turn our fingers red today.
Why
because
not? Yeah, let's have some fun with this.
They'll lose their color. Now, here's how you can avoid cutting off your fingers. Because
good.
if you try cutting it, it's just so rock solid, is cut it in half. And that way you've got a flat surface. And this way you can do any size you want. As you can see, I've already cut them up. I like that size. You can make them any size.
But uniformity is the key.
It is the key, and uniformity is the key in anything like this, only because they'll cook at the same rate. And the thing about borscht is that I'm going to be putting these in at a different time. Beets can sometimes seem to take forever to cook, and you can simmer them for a half hour, 45 minutes, and they might not be ready yet. So here's what I like to do. While the beef is browned, and I'm going to give it just another few moments, and then I'm going to simmer that just in the stock. And after that simmers about half an hour to give it a head start. Think about this: these all cook at a different rate. These are the beef takes longer than the beets. Beef and beets, it sounds the same. And then the carrots, onions can go in at any time, and then the potatoes. If you throw them all in at once, you're going to have cooked beets and everything else mushy.
Yeah, right.
Or everything else will be fine, and the beets will be hard as a rock. So I put these in, I stagger everything. It'll take about an hour and a half, but very little effort. Because once you cut everything up, you time it, half an hour for the meat to simmer, then you put the beets in for another half an hour, and then you put the carrots in for another 20 minutes, or even 15, the potatoes for the last 10, and you've got your borscht. Another thing I like to add is bay leaf. And this is similar to rosemary in that it isn't something that's going to get all softened and then you just leave it in there. It gives up its flavor, but you want to take out the bay leaf because you can kind of stick yourself in the mouth with it.
It's not like a special prize when you get it.
No,
That's right.
it's quite the opposite.
No, so
it might come back and bite you.
that's right, literally and figuratively.
Well, Chef Bill, keep up the good work. We're going to check in with Chef Bill a little bit later in the show.
Oh, I can't wait. It already smells so good in here.
Welcome back to Mass Appeal. We're back in the kitchen and we're back with personal chef Bill Collins. ChefBill.com is the website. We're finishing up our beef and beet borscht soup.
That's tough to say quickly.
That is hard to say. Beef
I had
and
to slow
beef.
it down a little bit.
Yes, and voila,
impressed.
we have the borscht.
Borscht.
And it's does it smell all right?
It smells amazing.
It smells. It's really nice. Well,
Does it smell good? Well, get out of the way.
I'm gonna
lady.
ladle
I
some.
love beets, though. I think you have to definitely like beets and beef.
That's it. And you know, actually, you can do this as a vegetarian version as well. Just don't put in the beef. And there's so many other versions. You can go with, Ed mentioned earlier, going with ground beef. You can go with ground poultry. A lot of folks go with ground pork. There are just so many different ways of doing it.
And there's a white borscht too, right?
There is, and I was just discussing that. And there's so many different ways of doing it. And there's milk and cream and buttermilk. There's so many variations. You know, if you were to ask 10 people for their favorite borscht recipe, as I said, you could probably get 15 different answers. So now we've got the borscht here, and nothing says borscht, I think, like a dollop of sour cream on top as well.
And good old full fat, no messing around sour cream.
Every now and then, especially winter, you need the heartier flavors.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I could eat a sour cream alone.
Do it.
No, it's just a saying.
I think it is. I think you
That's
could eat sour cream
really
alone.
Good. Well, we won't talk about that.
But this has everything. You'll find that by adding everything in, as we talked about earlier, by adding them in order of the density of thickness, they're all going to be, all the vegetables will be cooked through. You won't have any really mushy, softer vegetables to be a little bit warm. And actually, if you swirl it around, the sour cream will help cool it down a little bit. But you've got all the flavors in there. And I plucked out the bay leaves as well, so you wouldn't be nibbling on bay leaves too.
Oh, good, so I wouldn't get the prize.
Exactly.
Yeah,
This is so
it's really
healthy.
good, isn't it?
It's healthy. No, I haven't even tried it yet.
Well, here's my question too. I feel as if, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel as if I've seen these before in a cream. Can you take an immersion blender if you don't have the beef in there and churn it up and make it more of a like a thick soup?
You can, and there are a couple ways of doing that. One of them is to, and this is a lot of times how people do a cream soup, immersion blender or regular blender because there's so much to it, or even a food processor. But also you might want to take out a few scoops of it before you puree it. That way you'll have some things floating around.
Some differences in consistency.
Instead of just a pureed soup. But my preference is I like pureed soups and thickened soups, but if I do have a thinner soup, as we call it, with the stock, if there's a lot of stuff in it, whether it be like a chicken soup, a hearty chicken soup, or this, I'm just as happy because I like stuff.
And if you have something to chew on, it makes you more full too.
It really does. And you've got the beef. Again, if this were ground beef or even a vegetarian version, you've got so much. You've got the carrots, onions, potatoes, beets, and the beef in this. There's just so much going on to it.
It is really so yummy.
Yeah.
But when I hear borscht, I thought of something completely different. So this is like, I've never had it before.
A lot of times, because you also see it in the supermarket, and it can be had also, borscht can be served cold, and it's really just a broth with the beets usually shredded up and cooked, and you drink it in a glass, again with a dollop of sour cream. So a lot of people have different perceptions of it, especially if they didn't grow up with it or grow up with it as a family recipe. Especially around here, there's so many, large Polish community, and there's so many variations of it, and it's because there are also so many farms, it comes right off the farm, you know, right to your table.
Well, I love your version.
Thank you very much.
I think it's delicious. I
So-
love it.
We've discussed the red borscht. We've discussed the fact that if you want, you can puree it up. Apparently, there's a white borscht too.
There is a white borscht.
And just white. Can you have white? These guys?
Yes, beets do
There
come
we go. That's the word. Now we're even.
Beets can do come in other colors. Yellow beets, white beets. There are all these variations, so you can do it that way. Vinegar can also help keep the color from spreading. Not that you're going to be completely white with red beets in there, but there's so many things you can do. But there are lighter colors. Think of a white pizza.
That's
and
true.
Not this has anything to do with pizza, but you don't have to do just a red beet version. So yes, there are all kinds of variations.
Chef Bill,
Delicious.
Thank you.
pleasure having you here.
Thank
Some
you.
Chef
I
Secrets
love
with
it.
Bill. Hey, earlier in the